I didn't raise my voice when my brother looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Dad's house is sold. You don't own a single piece of it anymore." He expected me to explode, but I just nodded. That calm look on my face confused him more than any argument ever could. 3 days later, the title company called him, and everything he thought he had won came crashing down. If you've ever been betrayed by family, you're going to understand exactly how this feels. And before I continue, if stories about real family betrayal mean something to you, subscribe to Family Betrayal so you don't miss what happens next. Also, the faces, photos, and background scenes you're seeing are only there to help tell the story and aren't real images of the people involved. My father built that house with his own hands after returning from Vietnam. Every brick reminded me of weekends spent beside him learning how to fix things instead of paying someone else. My younger brother, Eric, barely visited unless he needed money. Even at Dad's funeral, he spent more time talking about property values than sharing memories. I tried convincing myself grief affects everyone differently, but deep down something didn't feel right. 2 months later he suddenly called me over, smiling like he'd won the lottery. That's when he casually announced he'd already sold the house. According to him, Dad had changed everything before he died, leaving him with full authority. He claimed I had no legal rights and suggested I move on with my life. I walked out without arguing, but one question kept repeating in my head. Why was he trying so hard to stop me from asking for paperwork? That answer changed everything. I barely slept that night. The more I replayed Eric's words, the less they made sense. My father was the most organized man I ever knew. Every receipt, every tax return, every insurance paper had its own folder. If he had really changed the ownership of the house, there would be a trail. Instead of confronting Eric again, I quietly called Dad's attorney the next morning. His assistant sounded surprised when I mentioned the sale. After checking the file, she asked me one question that made my stomach drop. "Who told you your father removed you from the estate?" I answered, "My brother." There was a long silence before she said, "That isn't what we have here." An hour later I was sitting across from the attorney, holding the original estate documents. Dad had never cut me out. The house had been placed in a family trust years earlier, and after his death, both Eric and I had to approve any sale. Neither of us could legally sell it alone. I felt sick. This wasn't just greed anymore. Eric had either lied to the buyer or hidden the trust from everyone involved. The attorney immediately contacted the title company and warned them that the property couldn't legally be transferred without both trustees signing the documents. I still didn't call Eric. I wanted the truth to catch up with him on its own. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was at work. It was someone from the title company. They thanked me for confirming the trust documents because the buyer had just been informed that the sale couldn't close. As soon as they discovered another legal owner had never signed, they walked away from the deal. A few minutes later, Eric started blowing up my phone. Call after call, voicemail after voicemail. Then one text appeared on my screen. "We need to talk. Right now." For the first time since Dad died, I realized my brother wasn't angry because he'd lost the house. He was terrified because I had just uncovered something much bigger than a failed sale. I let Eric call 23 times before I finally answered. He didn't even say hello. He just shouted, "Why did you contact the title company?" I stayed calm and told him the truth. Because Dad never removed me from the trust. The line went silent. For a few seconds, all I could hear was his breathing. Then his voice changed. The anger disappeared and panic took its place. He admitted he had already spent part of the buyer's deposit. He'd paid off credit cards, caught up on his truck loan, and even booked a vacation he hadn't taken yet. If the sale collapsed, he didn't know how he would pay the money back. For a split second, I actually felt sorry for him. He was still my little brother. But then I remembered standing beside Dad's hospital bed while Eric was nowhere to be found. I remembered all the weekends Dad and I spent repairing that old house together while Eric laughed that it was just an outdated money pit. Now, suddenly, it had become valuable enough for him to steal. Our attorney uncovered even more. Eric hadn't simply hidden the trust from the buyer. He had signed documents claiming he was the only person with legal authority over the property. Whether he understood it or not, those statements carried serious legal consequences. The title company froze everything immediately, and the buyer's attorney began asking questions Eric couldn't answer. That evening, Eric came to my front door. For the first time in years, he looked defeated instead of confident. He begged me not to involve the police or push for a lawsuit. He said he had made one stupid mistake, because he was drowning in debt. I looked him in the eyes and asked the question that had been haunting me ever since Dad died. If I had never found those trust papers, would you have ever told me the truth? He couldn't answer. He just lowered his head. In that moment, I finally had the answer I had feared all along. And what I decided to do next shocked everyone in the family.